Concerns about one-party state or not, this is a conversation you do not want to miss. We're joined on the program this morning by Professor Abass, a professor of international law and the director of the Progressive Institute, joins us virtually. You're welcome to the program, Professor Abass.
Hello, good morning, Coyote. Hope you can hear me.
Oh, yes, loud and clear. I don't know where you belong on this divide, particularly the concerns about Nigeria inching gradually towards a one-party state. For those who are concerned, the fear is that a one-party state usually leads to dictatorship with minimal representation. And at that point, corruption thrives, power is concentrated just in a center, and that usually does not augur well. So, should the parties, particularly the ruling party, really be celebrating now with all of the moves into the APC, or be cautious of what the future holds?
Well, thank you very much, Coyote, and thanks for having me on here today. Well, if I were the ruling party, I would be celebrating. Nothing stops me from celebrating if other people are joining me from other parties. That means I must be doing something very good, that is to start with. Because you cannot be criticizing me and be joining me at the same time is contradictory. So if you are criticizing me that I'm not doing well and you are joining me, it means, prima facie, I'm saying, other reasons could be there. Prima facie is either you are lying that I'm not doing well, or other reasons are prompting you. But whatever is prompting you, whether you are lying or other things are prompting you, the point is you are joining my party. And I'll be happy that you are joining me. If I were APC, obviously, APC have a right to celebrate. Whether that now translates to throwing away safety and the caution that we've built in our constitutions against a one-party state is a different thing. It's a different conversation to be had. But your question is whether APC should be celebrating or should be cautious. I would say nothing stop APC or any party for that matter who finds itself in the position of APC today, in which other people from other parties are joining it. Why should there's no reason it shouldn't celebrate. But as I said, that does not mean that as a party, whether you are APC or PDP or whatever you are, that you should not take certain precautions to make sure that the kind of democracy we want to have in Nigeria thrives.
You know, about 15 years ago from today, would you have thought that the PDP that was the ruling party, so powerful, so influential, and which is its former national chairman at one time said the PDP was in fact going to rule for 60 years. Would you have thought that today the PDP would have diminished up to this point?
Bukola, I believe that question is for me because I lost you for a second, right?
Indeed. I was talking about how we got here in the first place. The PDP was the former ruling party. Would you have thought about 15 years ago or more to today that the PDP would have diminished to this point, such that we can understand how we got here?
Thank you very much. I heard your question. Just wanted to be sure that it was meant for me. Look, you were right. At the peak of its power, the PDP made loud and clear that to rule for 60 years or something like that. We always say in the parlance of cliches that the only permanent thing in life is change. I mean, let's be cliche about it for a second. So you could be most powerful today and you change. I mean, go back to the UK in the days of Margaret Thatcher. You have one party in government for 15 years or 17 years and they change. Somebody holds it for 4 years. So all these things are very normal. The dynamics of any society are always very fluid. I mean, political parties are not immune to these dynamics. You know, what is important, though, is, and as you said, the PDP was a very powerful party. And that is why when people talk about one-party state, non-one-party state, and all this stuff, I'm sure we'll come to that discussion. Don't forget, in countries that you have one-party state, and there are very few in the world today, I'm talking about countries that have classical one-party state. You talk about, in China, Cuba, Laos, Sahara Republic in Africa here, and a few others. There are not very many of them that have one-party state, the proper one-party state. What is normally happen is that you have a major dominant party in power, which is the only recognized party anyway, the only legislated party in a country. Other parties don't simply exist. Then you have countries that practice pseudo one-party states, in which you have one major dominant party unofficially, obviously, it's a kind of unofficial one-party state because it's a multi-plural society. But then you have one party that is very dominant. Then you have other parties that are there. But why you have such a system is that, or what you have in such a system is that the other non-dominant party are also very, very small compared to big party. Today, PDP is not a small party. It's as big as APC. Forget about the governors, the campaign, and this and that. In terms of number, probably it's as big as APC in terms of number, or at least maybe if there will be difference, the difference does not justify the kind of classification we begin to give it at the end of the day. So what is important in all this is to understand that APC and PDP are two major parties in Nigeria. Any of them could switch, position. And that is what you're asking. That 15 years ago, nobody would have thought, to be honest with you, nobody would have projected to say PDP of probably pre-2015 will find itself where it got it today. But then you begin to ask your question, why? Is it the role of complacency on the party of PDP, which it had at that point in time? Is it the role of the fact that there have been major internal crisis in the party itself? They've gone through about 5 or 6 chairmen in the last, probably since 2015 election. So you have to be able to understand all those. Yeah, so nobody will have projected its trajectory to this point, but notwithstanding, it is not extraordinary and it is not out from the outer space. It is within a political culture and within entrenched dynamics of a society.
All right, Prof. I was reading through Senator Ben Murabru's statement on his, entry now or joining the APC, and he started his tweet now on his post on X by eulogizing President Bola Tinubu. He started by saying, I have known the president since 1998. I know the man's mind, his courage, his conviction. He's not driven by applause. He's driven by results. I can boldly say he's on the right track. And it almost seems as though the president has a personality that is able to sway anyone. We've seen some of his strongest critics now becoming some of his strongest supporters, up to the point that some of them are even his spokesperson right now. So what is it really? And I want us to speak to that, about the president, that is able to sway people from governors to lawmakers, almost anybody. Is that something about him?
Well, Coyote, I'm very happy you asked this question, and I'll tell you why. If you remember, I had some interviews with you in the run-up to the elections. I'm sure Bukola was there too. And I think off stage, you were asking me, I think it was live, you asked me a question of the candidates, who will I choose among the 3 leading candidates? President Bola Tinubu, not president then, Alhaji Atiku, and Peter Obi. And I posed some questions back to you to answer the question. I said, I asked myself a simple question. At this point in Nigerian democracy and life, who, as a Nigerian, am I looking for to govern me? I said, number one, I want somebody who can take bold decisions, who can make bold policies that we badly need in the country. Subsidy is one of them. The issue of dollar, the issue of foreign exchange is one of them, and so many others. I said, that's number one. And I said, number two, I'm looking for somebody that when political pressures will come to that person in office, the person will have the gravitas, will have the ability, will have the courage to be able to face those challenges head on and move on. And I did say that. And I said the third one for me is who among the 3 has been most consistent, and I broke everything down to you. And I'm happy one of your guys, I think the gentleman from the academia who you had on paper review said something. I think it was him that said this morning, which I said then, that of all the 3 persons, it's only Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu who has been consistent in a single party. From this to ACN, from ACN to APC, he has never jumped ship. That is consistency as far as I'm concerned, no matter what anybody says. In terms of boldness, I think whether you like him or not, whether you like his policies or not, is exerting some courage, which Ben Bruce spoke to, in terms of taking some bold decisions and making some bold policies. These are policies and decisions that people who are not very courageous, who are not very bold, who probably do not actually genuinely have the interest of their country at heart. And make no mistake, I'm not saying Professor Asiwaju is an angel, far from it. There are no angels among men. But I'm saying, as far as politics is concerned, he has justified that kind of confidence I expressed on television then, that is bold, is courageous, and we need bold, courageous leaders in Nigeria today. So when you look at people, the camping, and in terms of swaying, Now, you don't even need anybody to sweet talk you to sway you. And that is the point. You know, I might belong to PDP today or Labour Party or APC or whatever, but nothing stops me if I'm looking at the opposition, I'm looking at the other party, and I'm thinking, this person in the other party is doing what I would have been supporting him to do if I were in his party. But I'm in the opposition. He might not listen to me, or he might think, you know, and because of the kind of politics we play in Nigeria anyway, which is almost zero-sum, I might be thinking, you know what, I'm going to join this person to be able. So at the end of the day, I'm looking at how can I join forces with him to build a stronger Nigeria. So don't be surprised that, and I remember I told somebody a few months ago, I still remember a couple of people, I said, look, many governors are going to join Asiwaju. Sorry, are going to join the APC, that is Asiwaju's party. And the person said, why? I said, look, for me, it's very simple. If you are genuine as a governor, you're leading a state, and you're beginning to see that if you're in a position wherever you are in, and you see that, look, whoever is in power, you may not like him, but you like his policies, and you like his principles, you like his decisions, and you do an assessment and you think, you know what, if I join forces with this person, we are likely to build a stronger country for the future generations of my children and children. Why wouldn't I support him? You know, so I'm not surprised. Make no mistake. In terms of economies, even international bodies are beginning to pay attention to Nigeria, that we are making some moves now, some positive. And I said it again on one of your programs that you invited me to. I said, look, we are very impatient in Nigeria. Reforms are hard. Make no mistake. They are hard for people to swallow because as Nigerians, we have been living well above our means. At a point in time, we were importing toothpicks into Nigeria, and everybody who had 500,000 naira wanted to import a second-hand car from overseas. We've forgotten that for every toothpick you imported into this country, for every second-hand car you imported into this country, somebody had to pay for it. Eventually, the government will have to pay for it. People who had no business with dollars, they were importing dollars. They were hoarding dollars in those days. So we needed all these things to be dealt with by somebody who is courageous and not easily distracted. But, you know, there's so much cacophony of noises going on in the last few by people who I've been on there. I'm just speaking my mind. People who are losers at the end of the day, people who have been there, who have been in government positions and who have destroyed the country to this point, and they've been making noise and be parading themselves as if they are angels. So the truth is, at the end of the day, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, does not even need to speak to anybody to sway. If you love Nigeria, if you genuinely love this country, and you understand that when we embark on reforms, you don't get the reforms of a government in just 1 year or even 1 year. Let me be honest with you. All the reforms that the president Asiwaju administration is doing today, we may not begin to even see the result until the next 2-3 years. It's a fact. President Trump came to America. He inherited reforms put in place by Obama. Now they begin to reap that. But the credit goes to President Trump. Reforms are not something you do today, get a result tomorrow. You cannot malign a country for almost 50 or 60 years. You cannot destroy a country projectively for almost 50 years. And then suddenly you think a government will come and fix it in 4 years. It doesn't work like that. The best, I think, APC government can do today, and which I think is trying to do, is to lay a solid foundation for a future, solid and prosperous Nigeria that other governments can come and build upon. So the focus should be who comes next. Because we have 4 years in democracy. If APC gets a second term, you have at least maximum of 8 years. But at the end of the day, what can that actually do? It's at best lay some serious foundations in terms of the infrastructural development of the country, instead of realigning the economy and reorientating ourselves as a people, to begin to think more positively about our country and to begin to see that, all these reforms are necessary. They are going to bite in the meantime, but in the long term, we are going to have the dividends of them.
Well, Dr. Abass, you spoke about the destruction of the country. One thing is clear, our memory must not fail us about the colors of the political parties that failed the country, even though there is now some distancing by members of the All Progressives Congress as to who should take responsibility. Some are saying that, administrations should bear their father's name now. And, Nigerians understand, have a sense of history about what happened. But if we must look critically at whether or not the people who are defecting, the governors who are defecting, are moving because they're enamored about the statesmanship and the unique governance approach of this current president, shall we also look at it against the backdrop of the comments that are coming through from politicians of the opposition party? I refer again to Senator Seriake Dickson, who said yesterday that there is no need for a second-term governor to defect. And former Governor Ayofayoshi also said that he stood strong and tall at the thick of the Buhari administration when he was the main opposition who kept speaking against that government. And in fact, they reached out to him to defect such that his troubles would be over, but he weathered the storm. So shall we say that it is the style of the executive to put pressure on the opposition such that their own ranks can be swelled, and then they would have their way at the polls?
Bukola, brilliant question. I am not going to keep bluffing. Look, it is the strategy of every political party to maximize its membership. That is across the world, whether you like it or not. So let's run away from that. But we cannot pedestrianize certain arguments. I have listened to arguments on many channels, on many TV stations saying, oh, it is because those governors don't want to face the corruption charges. That's why they are defecting to APC. Of course, some statements made by some people like Adam Oshiomhole, saying that when you come to APC, your sins are forgiven. Such statements do not help. But I'm not, as a person, bothered by such statements. It is normal in the character of politicians to make wild, statements. So I don't really lose any sleep about that. But I look at one thing. If anybody is telling me today that, oh, well, it is because a governor doesn't want to be prosecuted, that's why he's joining APC or PDP, wherever he's joining, I would say, well, I remember in 2011, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was prosecuted for, I think, running about 10 bank accounts overseas when he was the governor of Lagos State. He was prosecuted by the ICPC. They prosecuted him. Eventually, he was discharged and acquitted. But when he was being prosecuted, he didn't join bail. He didn't join ship. He didn't join another party entirely. He didn't go to another party. And you can replicate those and that particular example. So I think we have come to it. We've become very cynical, and I've said this several times. We've become very cynical of ourselves as a people. I'm not saying that whether you are APC or PDP, you have no incentive to cajole or to pressure, other people from other parties to join you. What is important is that what kind of pressure are you using? Are you using constitutional or unconstitutional pressures? If I come out and I talk to you as a governor and say, look, why don't you come and join me? You are an opposition party. I know what you are doing, but what you are doing cannot really make as maximum effect on Nigeria, impact on Nigerians. Why don't you come and join me and let's build a stronger Nigeria? If I talk to you and you want to say, you know what? As I said earlier, I see what you are doing, I'm going to join you. I have no problem with that. What I have problem with, though, is if there is an evidence, a credible evidence, somebody coming out to say, you know what, Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration has promised Delta governor that if you come and join me, we will not prosecute you, or we are going to do this or things that are unconstitutional. Bring the evidence, and I will say that is not as acceptable from any corner of the country. But so in terms of, things will fly, rumors will fly. Why is this person joining and this and that? What is important, in that in all this carpet crossing that we've had so far, nobody for once has mentioned one thing. That is it possible that a governor is joining from PDP, joining APC, or from APC joining PDP because there is a rethinking about the ideological leaning of that particular governor? That question does not arise. You know why? Because Nigerian political parties are not really grounded in disparate ideological differences. And that is why, go to America today. You cannot wake up, you can't go to bed as a Democrat and wake up as a Republican. Right. It is suicidal. It is the first evidence that something is not right with you mentally. Because each party in such systems, whether you're America or you're in Britain, in Britain, each party is denominated by very core ideological principles and beliefs. Some of them are religious. So you are neoliberal, you are very liberal, you are to the left when you are in the Democratic Party. So you believe in abortion, you believe in this and this. You don't believe in all those in the Republican Party. Same thing in the UK, whether you are in Labour and you are in the Conservative. But those are countries where ideology is well entrenched in their political culture. We don't have that here. So let me come back to the person, somebody saying that, as a second-term governor, there's no reason for you to. Why not? I'm saying, why can't, if I'm a second-term governor, does it take away from my right of freedom of association under the Nigerian Constitution? When that provision was put in the Constitution, they didn't say, oh, by the way, the exception is if you are a second-term governor, you cannot change party. You cannot change association. Parties are associations. I can change. I am right. Look, if there was an intention to stop anybody from changing from one party to another, mind you, not that I support sometimes the very indisciplined and unprincipled carpet crossing going on in Nigeria. And I'm not talking about just between PDP or that's to APC. Even for that, and I'm about to somebody mentioned the last speaker, I think the gentleman from the academia, So that Peter Obi is not the person to lecture Nigeria about the constituents, about jumping this and that. He's one of the most profligacious, carpet crosser in the country. And so many of them, even Alhaji Atiku has carpet crossed so many times. So let's keep our focus, on the reasons, let's ask a question, what are the fundamental reasons that people carpet cross instead of wasting too much time on this governor joining this? They have their right under the constitution. Being a governor does not mean that I don't have my right to join an association. A party is an association.
Okay, very interesting angle. But while Nigerian political parties may not have ideologies, they at least have logos which are different from each other. That's something to hold on to. And what is being said now is that the logo of the APC is now looking like an umbrella with a broom as a handle. Because increasingly now, the APC is looking like the PDP. So I don't know if you see that, but isn't that going back to where we're coming from? If more PDP is joining the APC, very soon now, if I will become a broom, maybe it's just the colors that will remain, but the logo will now become a broom. Prof. The logo will become an umbrella rather, not a broom. I understand what I mean.
I understand it. No matter how you permitted this, look, call a rose by any other name. It doesn't stop it from being a rose. It doesn't stop the quality of roseness in it. Look, I stopped worrying, to be honest with you, about logos and names of politics in Nigeria in the 60s. We keep forgetting that the only party in Nigeria that was bold enough to actually say who it was the MPC. In those days, they called itself Northern People Congress. That was a party that ruled Nigeria, by the way. It was a Northern People Congress. No other party in Nigeria so circumscribed itself to a particular region in terms of name. That did not take away from the fact that the MPC ruled Nigeria under Tafawa Balewa and Alhaji Sadano Sokoto in those days. You can change any name. We have the NCNC, Nigerian Cameroon, and so on and so forth. So, and you understand what we were saying. Logo can change. People can join. If they like, they can implant the umbrella on top of a broom or put broom under the umbrella. The question is, what does your party stand for? And I've stopped bothering about whether you are APC or you are PDP or you are RIP. Whatever you want to be, I don't really care about it. What I care, and I'm happy somebody asked earlier on, where are the people in this? Where are Nigerians in this? What is in Nigerians in all of these carpet crossing? I think that is one conversation we need to be asking, Coyote and Kola. Let's stop wasting our time on this governor as carpet cross from PDP to APC, from APC.
Here, Prof. Pardon me, Prof. The point here is that Nigerians in 2015 came together and said, no more PDP. Now, there were certain people in the PDP, both at the national and state level, that Nigerians were saying no to, including the president. Right? We had governors, we had lawmakers who were in the PDP, and Nigerians said no to them. But the point I'm making now is those same people that Nigerians said no to then have now found their way into the APC, which is why I say, aren't we back to where we are coming from?
Fantastic. The Constitution is loud and clear on what should happen to your governor or your House of Representative member or whoever who is elected on the platform of one party, then carpet cross or decamp to another party, except in those circumstances that are clearly enumerated under the Constitution in terms of whether there's an internal crisis or that party has seized or not. And that is why we need to put pressure on our core. Because at the end of the day, the people who said no to them can say, you know what, we said no to you in PDP or in APC, but you've gone out from PDP that we elected you on to go and join APC. So because of that, we are going to recall. There's a right to recall. We are going to go to court to challenge that in the first place. That carpet crossing does not reflect the mandate that we give you. It's inconsistent with our mandate. So we are going to go to court. And that is where Nigerians need to put pressure on their judicial system, our judiciary, the judicial system. That is the last hope of the common man, literally so. Because at the end of the day, if the judiciary is balkanized, then the country is in trouble. So, and for me, so the people have two things to do. Number one is to punish, and either by recalling or by going to court against those people that, we may say, well, what would the court do? Because we have become very cynical. You're asking that question because you don't say, we don't really trust the court in Nigeria anymore. But I do, but most people don't, and I understand.
All right.
We don't trust the court anymore in Nigeria. That's one. Two, people have their right at the end of the day, in the next 4 years or in the next 2 years, 2027, to vote. But then you might say, if they vote again and the same thing happens. But it's a political culture. It's evolving. And that is the point. It is an evolving system. We cannot wake up. People say Rome was not, built in a day, but nor was Rome destroyed in a day. It takes time for all these things to mature. So I'm saying that there are constitutional guarantees against what we're having now, against us going back to where we used to be, as you said, Kyle, and I agree with that. And that is that you can use either the power of recall, or the people can say, you know what, we elected you on the basis of party A, because we didn't want you to be on party B. But now, having elected on party A, you've carpet crossed to party B, and we are going to make sure we recall you. The Constitution guarantees that you can go to court and challenge it. And that has happened in this country before. I think we have become more cynical now in the 2023, 24, 25, or thereabout, about the judiciary than what we used to be. What we need is to focus more in building a stronger judiciary for ourselves, because at the end of the day, the board is going to stop on their table when it comes to interpreting the Constitution, interpreting the law, and interpreting the activities of politicians and political parties in Nigeria. Make no mistake, Nigerian politicians are some of the most indisciplined I've seen in the world, and I say it categorically. Whether you're in PDP, APC, Labour Party, RIP, call it anything, they are some of the most indisciplined. They do things without a sense of shame sometimes. And it is very,
Dr. Abass, you talked about recall and the judiciary. You and I know what the realities are as against what is on paper. But you talked about something that is also very critical, that we should be talking about the interest of the people in the mix of this conversation. And relatedly is the danger of a one-party state. In hushed tones, members of the PDP, whose principles are moving to the APC, are talking about the possibility of an implosion, which is inevitable amid this defection. Aren't you worried about the risk of intolerance to dissent, as we have seen in other one-party state countries like North Korea, like China? Aren't you worried that that could be the destination that Nigeria is headed if this trend, this political trend, continues?
Well, Bukola, thank you very much. Again, very, very poignant question. First, let me do a clarification. You refer to China and co, China, Cuba, whatever. Look, these are officially one-party states. Nigeria can never be officially a one-party state. Not because our constitution legislates against it. And let me clarify that. When people say that, by virtue of our constitution, you can't be a one-party in Nigeria, there is no provision in Nigerian constitution that says Nigeria cannot be a one-party state. None. In fact, the only thing that guarantees against one-party state in Nigeria, if you must know it, is the section, I think section 66 of section 1, paragraph G of our constitution, that talks about the fact that a party, somebody who is elected on a party cannot carpet cross to another party. So you only infer from that if he's talking about you cannot carpet cross, it simply means that you cannot join another party. That's section 68 1G of the Constitution. And that is the only thing you can hang on to, because otherwise, if it had been one state, you cannot carpet one party state, you cannot carpet cross within one party state. So it's only by inference to section 68, subsection 1, paragraph G of the Constitution that you can say that the Constitution does not allow one party state, but it does not say it clearly in any particular provision. It only says that you cannot carpet cross, or you must have at least two parties before you can carpet cross. That is only, let me clarify that. But constitutionally, nothing prohibits that one party state. Having said that, you refer to China. China is an officially one-party state. Only one party exists in that particular country. So it is possible to have totalitarianism, autocracy, and what have you. But also you have countries that are not one-party states. Take America, for instance. Under Donald Trump today, US is not a one-party state officially, but the Republican Party has become the most dominant party in the country, has completely subjugated the Democratic Party at the end of the day. And what you have today is, you're talking about autocracy, you're talking about authoritarianism. Do you think you can ask yourself a serious question that in America we have today, you haven't got an autocracy going on or some pseudo-totalitarianism going on? Everything in the US has been subjugated, but even the judiciary now is the last vaccine. Don't forget, you have a president who regularly abuses judges openly, and you see it, Kyle, you see it on a daily basis. Abuses them when they don't give judgment that he wants to see. He will call them names, he will call them corrupt judges. But if this happens in Africa, we'll be heaping curses and names, we'll be calling them names. We'll be calling our judges names. And that's another thing. We are quick to destroy ourselves. But because it's happening in America, nobody's saying anything. Donald Trump government has overrun the DOJ, has overrun the other day, don't forget, he went after, this popular journalist, the night TV host, so many of them. So what are the indices of totalitarianism you are talking about. Meanwhile, the US is one of the, probably the strongest democracy in the world, has some of the robust, institutions, democratic institutions that can checkmate. But you have a powerful government, a powerful president that's almost overrun everything completely. That tells you one thing, Bukola and Kayode. It tells you that move beyond normal nomenclature, whether you're a one-party state or you are not one-party state. Focus more. Let's focus more on what is the role of democratic institutions that are supposed to guide against whether you're a one-party state or a multi-party state. Let me flip it. You mentioned China. China is a one-party state officially. China today has some of the best infrastructure in the world. China today has one of the best technological advancements in the world and has a military might that even its worst adversaries cannot take on easily. That is a one-party state. What has Nigeria benefited from multi-party state? By the way, I'm not saying we shouldn't be a multi-party. That's not the argument, before anybody misquote me. But I'm saying, if you focus too much on whether you are one-party or you are multi-party or you two-party, you lose something in the process. You lose the focus on what should a party in government be doing to its people. I care more about that than the form. If you have lawyers among you in law, we talk about equity, looking at intention, not the form. Street common law rules, look at the form. Oh, when I want to buy my house, did my wife contribute a penny to it? She didn't contribute a penny. Okay, if you are going to divorce and they go to court, she goes to common law will say, sorry, madam, you did not have a penny in this house, so you cannot get a penny. But she's been my wife for 25 or 30, 50 years. She goes to court of equity. What will court of equity say? We say, oh, you know what, Prof. Abass, your wife did not contribute a penny when you were buying the house, but it was an intention to build a home with you. When you are working, she was running your home. She was buying milk for the house. She was looking after your children. So she must be presumed to have an equitable interest in that property, even though she didn't sign a form when you bought it. That is equitable interest.
All right, Prof.
Equity looks at the intention, not the form. So we should be looking at the intention of the party, what the party is doing, not whether you are one party or not. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be constitutional guarantees, but the guarantee should not be whether you are one party or you are two party or this now. We've seen
Prof,
and multi-party data.
It's always an interesting conversation with you. We talk politics, we're talking marital affairs now, but it's still linked. But about the intention, and it goes back to that same question I asked. If those same people are now in the APC, does that mean that indeed their sins are forgiven, so we can assume that their intention is now right for Nigerians? But don't answer that, Prof. This is an ongoing conversation, but I think ultimately what should matter to Nigerians is the results, the outcome. So we look at the economy, we look at security, we look at all of the basics, infrastructure, and they look good. That will then be the major issue there. We've been speaking with Professor Ademola Abass, Professor of International Law, Director of Administration, the Progressive Institute. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Quite an interesting conversation, but that's not all. We zoom in on the Bayelsa situation. What is the obvious reasons that Governor Dori mentioned? That's in a moment. Stay with us.